The Book of the Damned, by Charles Hoyfort, Chapter 13F. Professor Schwedoff's paper was read before the British Association, Report of 1882, page 453. The implication, and the repulsiveness of the implication to the snug and tight little exclusionists of 1882, though we hold out that they were functioning well and ably relatively to 1882. That there is water, oceans or lakes and ponds, or rivers of it, that there is water away from, and yet not far remote from, this earth's atmosphere and gravitation. The pain of it, that the snug little system of 1882 would be ousted from its reposefulness. A whole new science to learn. The science of super-geography. And science is a turtle that says that its own shell encloses all things. So the members of the British Association, to some of them Professor Schwedoff's ideas were like slaps on the back of an environment-denying turtle. To some of them his heresy was like an offering of meat, raw and dripping, to milk-fed lambs. Some of them bleated like lambs, and some of them turtled like turtles. We used to crucify, but now we ridicule. Or, in the loss of vigor of all progress, the spike has etherealized into the laugh. Sir William Thomson ridiculed the heresy, with the phantomosities of his era, that all bodies, such as hailstones, if away from this Earth's atmosphere, would have to move at planetary velocity, which would be positively reasonable if the pronouncements of St. Isaac were anything but articles of faith, that a hailstone falling through the Earth's atmosphere, with planetary velocity, would perform 13,000 times as much work as would raise an equal weight of water 1 degree centigrade, and therefore never fall as a hailstone at all, be more than melted, supervolatilized. These turtles and these bleats of pedantry, though we insist that, relatively to 1882, these turtles and bleats should be regarded as respectfully as we regard ragdolls that keep infants occupied and noiseless, it is the survival of ragdolls into maturity that we object to. So these pious and naive ones who believe that 13,000 times something could have, that is, in quasi-existence, an exact and calculable resultant, whereas there is, in quasi-existence, nothing that can, except by delusion and convenience, be called a unit in the first place, whose devotion to St. Isaac required blind belief in formulas of falling bodies, against data that were piling up in their own time of slow-falling meteorites, milk-warm ones admitted even by Farrington and Merrill, at least when I see meteorite nowhere denied by the present orthodoxy, a datum as accessible to Thomson in 1882 as it is now to us, because it was an occurrence of 1860. Beans and needles and tacks and a magnet. Needles and tacks adhere to and systematize relatively to a magnet, but if some beans, too, be caught up, they are irreconcilables to this system and drop right out of it. A member of the Salvation Army may hear over and over data that seems so memorable to an evolutionist. It seems remarkable that they do not influence him. One finds that he cannot remember them. It is incredible that Sir William Thomson had never heard of slow-falling gold meteorites. It is simply that he had no power to remember such irreconcilabilities. And then Mr. Simmons again. Mr. Simmons was a man who probably did more for the science of meteorology than did any other man of his time. Therefore he probably did more to hold back the science of meteorology than did any other man of his time. In Nature, Volume 41, page 135, Mr. Simmons says that Professor Schwedoff's ideas are very droll.